I've been lying down for hours now. It's 5:35 a.m. and there's not much I can do. You know what the worst part about my situation is? I'm in the same room as my parents. They keep looking at me, and I can't help but look back and try not to cry or scream. Their eyes are focused on me, and their mouths are wide open. There's a strong scent of blood and I feel paralyzed with fear. Here's the thing. The second I make any hint that I'm not asleep anymore, I'm completely fucked. I will die and there's nobody around to save me. I've been trying to think of a way out, but the only idea I have is to rush for the front door and scream for help, hoping any neighbors can hear me. It's risky, but if I stay here, I'll surely die. He's waiting for me to wake up and see his masterpiece. You're probably wondering what's going on. I do tend to get ahead of myself sometimes. About 3 hours ago, I heard screaming from the other side of the house. I got up and went to check on the noise before realizing I had to use the restroom. Instead of doing the smart thing and investigating, I used the bathroom first. I could have gotten myself killed right then and there for my stupid actions. I did my business and took a peek outside from the bathroom. There was blood on the carpet. I got very worried and ran back to my room, hiding under the sheets like the coward I was. I tried to convince myself to go back to sleep, that it was just some really vivid dream or something. But I heard my bedroom door open slowly. Like the terrified child I was, I peeked out from under my blankets to see what was going on. I could see something dragging my dead parents into the room. It was not human, I can tell you that. It was hairless, with no eyes or clothing. It walked like a caveman with its back slouched as it dragged my parents. But this thing was much smarter than any caveman. It was aware of what it was doing. It propped my dad up on the edge of my bed and made him face me. It then sat my mother down in the chair and positioned her towards me as well. It then started rubbing its hands on the walls, staining them with the blood, and then drew a circle with the devil's pentagram in it. This thing had made what it would probably call a masterpiece. To finish it off, it scribbled a message into the wall that I could not read in the darkness. It then positioned itself under my bed, waiting to strike. The scariest thing now is my eyes have adjusted to the darkness since then, and I can read the message on the wall. I don't want to look at it, because it's terrifying to think about it, but I feel I need to see before I'm killed. I peek at the creature's masterpiece. I know you are awake. Let's start with a little backstory. I'm a 24-year-old female that fell in love with national parks. So much so I decided to work full-time at one for about 3 years. This experience allowed me to meet some great people, but it also welcomed some sketchy individuals. This particular story starts with a man that we'll call Sam. Sam was a tall man with a shaved head and glasses. He was the kind of coworker that would always linger awkwardly. He made everyone feel uncomfortable, but not enough to warrant any concern. The only issue that I really noticed was that he seemed like he had a drinking problem. He would show up to work still drunk, and be sent home somewhat regular. He seemed innocent enough though, in a socially awkward way that is. I only worked with him for a few months, before I was transferred to another location and was offered a pay raise. A few months after starting the new position, I was in the employee break room browsing my news feeds, when I received 5 messages within a 3-minute time span. I didn't even realize people could type that fast. The messages were from Sam, something that caught me off guard, because I had never spoken to him outside of my last position. The messages consisted of vague threats regarding my friends and myself. He seemed upset to find out that I had gay friends and thought that I was tainted from association. I was less upset at his foul perception of me and more pissed that he had targeted my friends, who were truly loved people. I am bad when it comes to taking the high road and decided to give this man a piece of my mind. We weren't friends, hardly acquaintances, so I didn't feel that his behavior was appropriate, and quite frankly, I was angry. Through our exchange, the original rude context of the messages became obviously threatening. He told me that I should die along with my gay friends, and that he'd be more than happy to end our misery. I was shocked. His anger didn't make any sense to me, and I realized that I wasn't going to reason with this lunatic, so I decided to get HR involved. We worked within the same company, so I thought this would be the best route to prevent any further harassment. HR advised me to block any contact from him while they investigate, but to alert authorities in case he decided to act out his threats. Authorities were involved, and didn't seem too fazed by the messages that I showed them. They almost seemed annoyed that I had bothered calling them in the first place. I filled out a statement and was told to contact them if anything progressed. The next day, I woke up to find trash all over my front steps. Odd, but not too strange. I actually thought it was a raccoon, since I was in a national park. Then, I saw a piece of paper with the words, "Watch your back, bitch," scribbled onto it. I looked around the other neighboring cabins to see if anyone was watching, but I didn't see anyone. I cleaned up the mess, but saved the note. I wanted to show my sister who lived with me. When she got back home later that morning, I caught her up on the previous night's events. She didn't even know Sam, because like I said, we weren't friends. Why would I mention him in my personal life? I gave her a brief description of him in case she saw him lurking around, and headed to work. Halfway through my shift, I get a phone call from Alexa. She sounds shaken when she tells me that a man matching Sam's description came to our cabin and asked about me and where I was. She played dumb and pretended to not even know who I was. After an awkward silence, he said, "I'll be back to get her later," and then walked away. She said he sounded and acted like he had been heavily drinking and had an intense coldness to him. I'm not messing around anymore at this point, and have watched enough crime shows to know that you shouldn't underestimate people. So I called the company's security team and asked to have someone check on my sister to be escorted home immediately. I'm home within 20 minutes of her phone call. She gave security some more information, and they were able to find out which cabin he resided in. Apparently, he only lived about a 2-minute walk down our street, which was really unnerving. Park rangers are called again, and they get more statements from the both of us, and decided to pay him a visit. They seem to be taking the situation a bit more seriously now that he knows where I live. They come back after talking to his roommate. It's confirmed that he lives there but hasn't been home since the night before. Authorities put a word out to keep an eye out for Sam. They offer to have a unit keep an eye on us that night, which we gladly accept, and we go to bed. I wake up to 34 messages from an unknown number. It was Sam again. He was very angry that I got HR and Rangers involved. He said, "I want you to listen, and I want you to listen closely. You're going to pay for this, bitch. You fucked with the wrong person. I will fucking kill you." I email HR and present them screenshots of the messages and texts. I demand that they resolve this immediately and want to set up a meeting with the director to discuss termination. You see, in national parks when you're hired, the company provides cheap housing on site, and when you're fired, you have to leave the national park boundary within 24 hours. So I thought this would solve a majority of my issues. They seem to agree with me and try to locate Sam for a meeting. No one has seen him since the first messages began 2 days prior, so the park is on a manhunt. The park is huge, and it's easy to hide in it if you don't want to be found. Thankfully, his roommate alerted officials when Sam stumbled home drunk the next day. They are able to speak with him and sober him up enough to take him to the HR building a couple hours later. After the meeting, I'm notified that he has been given a first and final write-up and will continue to work and live on my street. He apparently gave a sob story about his personal issues and promises to leave me alone. I was baffled that even with him threatening to kill me, they weren't going to fire him. Thankfully, the Rangers were equally surprised and still offered to provide surveillance just in case. It was quiet for 3 days. I thought it was actually over and started to feel bad for Sam actually. I thought maybe he was going through some shit and I was just his mental punching bag. I didn't agree with it, but I no longer felt as threatened, if that makes sense. That was, until I received a knock on my door, and opened it up to find 2 Rangers wanting to speak with me. According to the Rangers and a few people from the HR department, Sam's roommate had to call the emergency line when Sam started acting bizarre after the meeting and tried to convince him to lure me to a secluded place so Sam could take care of me. Thankfully, his roommate wasn't a psycho and reported the situation immediately once Sam went to the bathroom. Rangers were on site within minutes and had restrained Sam in order to search their cabin for evidence. They ended up finding a loaded firearm and a suspected suicide note that stated he was going to kill me and take his own life. There was plenty of evidence for a case, and he was successfully banned from all national parks in the US. I have since moved to a different state and have changed my contact information. He has since contacted me once to brag about how much I helped him secure unemployment benefits, which I quickly shared with officials. According to officials, he is restricted to a southern AZ county due to other crimes that he later committed, and that I shouldn't worry about him finding me. As for HR, the director actually had to deal with harassment from Sam after the banning and asked me to testify on her behalf if it turned into something more sinister. I haven't heard anything since, so I'm assuming she found another way to stop his assault. I don't understand why he decided to target me. We hadn't had very much interactions, even at work. I have tried to dig through memories to find a single time that I may have invited this kind of behavior, but I'm convinced it was due to many factors, including his instability and alcoholism. Sam, if you're still watching me, let's not meet again. We ate the oxen first. We didn't even need them anymore. The fields have been barren dust for nearly a year now, and they fed us for weeks. But the meat eventually ran out, as it always did, and once again, our stomachs clawed away at themselves, with nothing to eat for days that were churning into weeks. We ate the family dog next. The children cried as I butchered the poor creature, but their tears dried as our small house finally smelled like cooking meat again. But a starved dog has only so much meat. I could tell that my daughter wouldn't make it. She was weak, getting weaker, and my son was stronger. He just needed some food. My husband was long gone at that point. No guidance, no help, no forgiveness. Just my husband's quiet bones in the dust of our yard. I begged God to answer me, to tell me what to do. He was as silent as the night sky, silent as the slowly dying world around us. I couldn't lose them both. I pulled out the large cooking pot and the cleaver. There was no use in delaying the inevitable, stretching her timeline out, letting her suffer, needlessly collecting the dead until everything was dust. I had decided to use the threadbare pillow on her to walk into their small room in the dark of the night as they tried to sleep off the pain of their empty stomachs, and put it over her face, pushing down, guiding her to some kind of final sleep. Led her into the endless dark where there was no pain, no more suffering. My hand shook, one on the knob of the door to their room, the other clutching the pillow. God forgive me. A voice from the other side of the door spoke. He will not have to. I opened the door to find the job had been done for me. My child, dead. My eyes welled as I looked upon the horror of my bloody daughter. My blooded daughter, standing over the lifeless, slaughtered husk of her brother.
Now, this isn't a scary story, but more of a creepy one. My friend's dad's family used to live in the woods near Eureka Springs, Arkansas. My friend's uncle was the oldest of the 3 kids and was allowed to explore the woods on his own, even though he was only about 9. One day, he came across a little cottage nestled in the woods. He knocked on the door and was greeted by 2 old ladies. He promptly asked for some water as he had been exploring for hours. The ladies invited him in and gave him some milk and cookies and sat down and talked to him while he pet their white cat. They talked for a while and they eventually invited him to stay for dinner and spend the night, because it was getting dark and he was a ways from home. His parents were pretty used to him being in the woods for nights without coming back, so he accepted without question. He spent the night without incident and returned home the next morning. He visited many more times over the next year, and one day they told him to bring his parents and brothers the next time he came. So the next week, the whole family embarked on the long trek to the cottage. When they arrived, however, they found the remains of a small cottage that appeared to have been abandoned for years. Everyone was very confused, as they had all trusted that my friend's uncle had visited the women many times. They had absolutely no idea what had happened, or if my friend's uncle had actually been visiting anybody. To make things even weirder, as they were leaving, an old, skinny white cat ran past them, darting into the trees, leaving them in utter shock.
A little while ago, there has been something that completely threw me off. I couldn't do anything against it. As always, I took my nice little walk to the forest to enjoy the fresh night air, since it was around 12:30 a.m. I was feeling pretty good for the time being, but that was about to change very soon. As I went deeper into the forest, the air around me got cold all of a sudden, just like someone turned down all of the warmth. I was feeling a bit off because I felt like I'd been watched for a small while now. When I turned around, I saw nothing, and even when I yelled, "Hello, is anyone there?" I didn't get a response back, but only I received the quietness of the forest radiating around me. Although there was something weird I had felt for the longest time, I kept hearing different noises as if something or someone was running around the forest. It eventually stopped, but when I turned my head after I heard it again, I saw white creepy eyes peering at me through the bushes in the forest. It freaked me out completely. Although I'm not an expert in cryptids, the creature looked rather tall and skinny. It reminded me more of the body of a skinwalker. But I was paralyzed in fear and had no time to think. Its fingernails and sharp teeth gleamed in the moonlight. I got extremely petrified from its terrifying sight, but I recalled something particular about it that literally fucked up my mind. How could it be possible that this human-eating monster could be me? It couldn't be. Impossible. Snapping out of my delusions, I decided to book it. I kept running till I was able to finally stop and catch my breath. I didn't understand how the creature could have been me. I randomly started to question myself. Did I do something to deserve this? I know for certain I wasn't able to answer those questions myself, so I just kept on walking till I found two ways, the one leading more into the forest and the other one leading out. I then thought about it for a short while, but as soon as I calmed down, I was about to take the path out of the woods. Something blocked my way. It was what I soon realized to be the Wendigo. As I am standing there frozen in fear, I looked deep into his glassy white eyes, and it paralyzed me to the bone. Something spoke to me in a creepy voice.
A long time ago, I was created to haunt you, to bring fear to you. These times are now over, since you can't escape. I am you.
Hey guys, it's me, Lucid Lupus. I hope you enjoyed the video. I want to give a special thanks and shout out to my good friend The Creeping Hour for joining me in this video. You guys should definitely go check out his channel. I'll leave his channel link in the description below. I also wanted to thank Ashley Rose Wellman for lending me one of her stories again. She's such a lovely person and you guys should go definitely check out her stories. Link in the description. Also lastly, thank you to HellFireNations for writing me a story. But that's it for today, folks. If you guys enjoyed, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. And as always, the dark is simply the answer.